Do you remember the Wii U? Yeah, Nintendo's biggest console flop from a couple years ago, which only sold 13 million units. Well, now the Switch 2 is going to prove people that Nintendo has learned from their mistakes, and that they're now capable of making a great successor to a fantastic console. Today I'm breaking down what the Wii U did wrong and the reasons it ended up failing. I'll also be telling you what the Switch 2 has done better and why I think it is going to be a great selling console for Nintendo. Without further ado, let's get started. So you all know the fact that the Wii U was a bad selling console. This happens thanks to a few reasons, but arguably the most important one is this console's bad marketing. First of all, the name of the Wii U was very confusing for a lot of people out there. Almost everyone who hasn't seen the ads about this console thought the Wii U was an accessory for the Wii, the extremely popular console which was discontinued shortly after the Wii U's release. And you can't really blame people for thinking like this. At the end of the day, Nintendo produced very bad, childish ads that mostly advertised the gamepad, not the console itself, and gave the console almost an identical name to the Wii. This resulted in gamers thinking that the Wii U's gamepad was an accessory for the Wii, in which people weren't really interested to be real. Thankfully, the Switch 2 doesn't have any of these problems. This console has a straightforward name that indicates the console is a sequel to the Switch, not an accessory. Also, Nintendo did an amazing job advertising the Switch 2 by making great simple showcases of the console which told you everything you needed to know. This content was uploaded to YouTube and other platforms so it can be seen by everyone. Besides these things, Nintendo also introduced the Switch 2 experiences across the globe. In these places, gamers could try out the Switch 2 before it's released. This was a clever move that generated even more hype for the console. Overall, the Switch 2 had perfect ads and a simple, clear name that just worked. So far, it did a way better job than the Wii U. Like I said earlier, Nintendo made many mistakes when creating and advertising the Wii U, one of them being the limitations of this console. So besides the fact that the Wii U had very bad marketing, it also wasn't the best designed console out there, and it had some flaws for sure, like the fact that the gamepad was quite bulky and had a terrible battery life. And because players had to be using the gamepad all the time in order to play games, they often had to stop gaming sessions just to charge the gamepad, and that sucked. Another problem people point out all the time is the fact that the range from a gamepad to the console itself was very short, just a few meters. So the way the Wii U worked is quite interesting. You see, to play on your TV, you had to use the gamepad as a secondary device, which was often used for its touchscreen functionality. But if you didn't want to play like this, you can also play just on the gamepad, like in handheld mode for Switch. This sounds great, but the issue of playing had some problems, like the fact you had to be less than 8 meters close to the console, just often placed in the living room in case you wanted to play on your TV. This made gaming in another room close to impossible, because walls made the 8-meter range even shorter, and sometimes the gamepad would just disconnect. In this case, you had to get closer to a console in order to continue playing. So the Wii U tried to do what the Switch ended up creating a few years later. A console that can also be played at home on a big screen, but can also be taken on the go. The concept of the Wii U was great, but the final product was unpolished. Thankfully, Nintendo fixed all these mistakes they made with the Wii U when the Switch came out, and now with the Switch 2, these problems are gone for good. Now, let's talk about the last major reason why the Wii U failed. It's lack of third-party games. This mostly happened because the console simply wasn't powerful enough to handle popular games from that time, like GTA 5, Call of Duty, and Skyrim. Most developers stopped bothering creating new entries for their most popular series on the Wii U because it simply wasn't worth it. The process of developing games was now harder because they had to work with a much slower and underpowered device. And they also had to include certain gimmicks like implementing the touchscreen functionalities. So, after developers saw that the Wii U isn't selling well at all, they decided to ditch creating third-party games for Nintendo completely and put all their resources towards PlayStation, Xbox, and PC games. Thankfully, Nintendo has solved this problem. Now the Switch 2 already has lots of third-party games like Cyberpunk, Street Fighter 6, and all the third-party games from the original Switch, like Witcher 3, Hogwarts Legacy, Skyrim, Assassin's Creed, and FIFA games. As you can see, the Switch 2 has plenty of games from day one, and new titles similar to those ones above are rumored to release soon. And that is just awesome. So, Nintendo has done a way better job at advertising and generating hype for the Switch 2 when compared to the Wii U and even the Switch 1. They also partnered with many popular developers so that they have the best games when the console is released and in its first few years. This is why I think the Switch 2 will be a great performing console. If you don't agree with me, make sure to tell me your opinion in the comments down below. Also, if you enjoyed this clip, I'd really appreciate if you could like, subscribe, and share this video. How's David? Bye! Have a nice day!